Yeah, yeah. We just chillin' and vibing. Good conversations with good people. Oh, good conversations with good people. Yeah, yeah.
Yo, 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 this your boy Larry, and I'm chilling and vibing with Tany. What's going on, girl?
Hey y'all, what's up? It's your radio bestie, Tany Baby in the building.
How you doing?
It's a little cold up here, but other than that, I'm good.
Okay, so where you from?
The good old Bronx, you know what I'm saying? From New York City and a nice little town called the Bronx. I'm sure you heard of it.
That's what's up. Hey, I appreciate you for coming to chill and vibe.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
So you was born and raised in New York?
Yes, I was. I was born in Manhattan, Midtown area, and I was raised by the streets of the Bronx.
So being from New York, I gotta ask, who's your favorite artist?
There's so many really good artists out of New York, but I would be honest, my favorite artist is not a New York artist right now. But you want to know my favorite artist out of New York, or just my favorite artist in general? Because right now I'm really feeling like I like Doja Cat. That's my girl. She could really rap. I'm really feeling SZA right now with her and that Kendrick Lamar vibe that they got going on. But my favorite New York artist, I don't even know. I'm gonna have to give it to right now. I'm gonna give it to Cardi B. Cause that's my girl, she from the gutter, she from here, so I gotta rep the Bronx, my girl Ice Spice, you know what I'm saying? I gotta do it for the ladies out the Bronx, you know what I'm saying?
It's crazy you asked that question because I was gonna ask you Cardi or Nicki, but you already gave me your answer.
That's not my answer though, cause I'm a barb. I'm a barb. I'm gonna be honest. So if it has to become between, I mean, I love them both so much, and I hate that that's even a question, right? Like Cardi and Nicki. Yeah, Cardi from the Bronx, that's my girl and all that. But honestly, I'm gonna have to go with Nicki Minaj only because if there wasn't a Nicki Minaj, there wouldn't be a Cardi B. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta give credit where credit's due. And I gotta give it to my sis, Nikki, because I'm a Barbie all the way.
You're a podcaster. What made you want to start that journey?
So I've actually always wanted to like be on the radio. I went to a performing arts high school and my principal had set up like a little studio in the library for us. Right. And I used to help out with like the 2 minute news at school, which is called 2 minute news. You would go into like the principal's office and you'll go on the overhead and basically state like 2 minutes of news or whatever was going on in the school that day. So I would do that. And then it was really my high school principal that really encouraged us because he put in like a little studio space in the library and I loved it. And then fun fact, my principal was also a radio personality. So we've been kind of in tune for like a while and I always wanted to do it. But as the years gone by, video became very big, right? Everything wasn't going from radio to more like video and podcasting and what it is today. But then I got scared because I didn't want my image to be out there. Like, granted, like I'm a pretty girl and everything. I was like, oh, you're so pretty. Why don't you use your face? I didn't want people to like look at me and judge me by what I look like, right? Like, oh, she's just a pretty girl, whatever it is. But I wanted people to hear me out. So I got discouraged. And I was like, oh, this video situation, social media started to come out crazy. And I was like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. Like, like with women and social media, we start to like judge ourselves to other women, right? So I felt like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. Like, as you see me now, I don't wear a lot of makeup. I don't have my body done. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to like be on camera because I'm like, I'm just not good enough to be on camera. So forget it. I'm never going to do this. But then I actually had a health care scare where I had an injury in my leg and a girlfriend of mine, God bless her, after I recovered from that situation, she's like, girl, like you're unstoppable. You might as well do everything you've always wanted to do. She's like, make an Instagram and start your Tany Talks. Cause I always wanted to call it Tany Talks. Like all my friends, anybody who knew me knew that I wanted to do Tany Talks. I just didn't know how, right? To start to do it. I was very discouraged. I didn't even have an Instagram at the time. So my homegirl was like, listen, you're meant to be here. You're meant to do something. Do the things that you're afraid to do because you just never know, right? with this healthcare scare, you were supposed to be here to do something. So do what you want to do. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make an Instagram. So I made the Instagram. I called it Tany Talks because I just wanted to get on there and start talking. And then my very first episode, I remember being so nervous because I was scared to press that live button, on Instagram. So I cried right before I went live because I felt stupid and I felt dumb and I was nervous. And I was just like, you know what? Just try it. Just do it. And I went live and nobody was watching my live. Not a single soul was on my live. Let me tell you. And I was just talking to myself and I felt so cringy. Because, like when you first do it for the first time and you're by yourself, right? Like I just got on, I pressed live. I was like, hey, it's me. I want to do this show. I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but I'm just going to go live every day or whatever the case may be and just start talking. I felt so stupid. Honestly, I felt so dumb, but I just did it anyway. And then after I cried again because I was like, what am I doing? Nobody was even watching me. Nobody even cares. Like I felt so low. But during my very first episode, I was basically talking about myself. I was like, hey, why I'm here and what I'm doing. And I was always inspired by, Angie Martinez, right? So it just so happened that my first video that I posted, 8 minutes after I posted my first video, Angie Martinez reposted my video.
That's
Mind
dope.
you, I didn't have nobody on that freaking live, and I felt so silly talking to myself. And I felt like if this didn't go right, I'm never doing it again, right? And right after I posted, I was like, oh, this is never going to be anything. No one's ever going to watch me. And somebody who I looked up to in the radio actually reposted it. And I sent her a DM. I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I felt so silly doing this. I was literally losing the fire inside of me and the passion that I had for it, right? And it wasn't until she reposted it and she DMs me back. And she was like, you're a natural, keep going. And that right there was like the match to my fire again. Like I just was like, okay, I can do this. If Angie Martinez says I got talent, then I got talent and I'm gonna do it. So then I started just like doing it every week in my house. And I felt super silly before the first one that I was just like, this is what I was supposed to do. Like I have one of the greatest radio personalities, telling me that I'm a natural. And that was just like what I needed to start.
That's
Yeah.
dope. That's dope. Hearing that story, man. Because when I first started, I was the same way. I mean, I recorded a couple of times before I actually, got a guest on. So, I was here talking to myself, and I felt stupid. I'm like, man, I'm talking to the camera. But after I did that first guest and I got that feedback, it just motivated me to keep going more. I'm like, yeah.
Yep.
And then hearing, like I say, hearing everybody's story, like hearing your story, that motivate me to want to go
Hmm.
even harder. And everybody else hearing it, people who want to get in the podcast, they're gonna feel the same way.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. It definitely takes a lot of encouragement. You know what I mean? And when I say encouragement, it's a lot of like, even though I had my homegirl that was like, hey, you can do this. And even though, I had one of the greatest podcasters, out, radio personalities out telling me I could do this, there's still something in you that you have to believe in yourself more than anyone. You know what I mean? And that's definitely something I would tell, younger podcasts. Because I mean, I'm still young with it too. Like I haven't, you've already have way more episodes than I've ever even created. I haven't even done my first 50 episodes yet. You know what I mean? But so we're all kind of starting from a place of learning, right? But I
Hmm.
think the true key is consistency, right? Because I'm up to my fifth season, right? And the first two were in my living room. Let me tell you something. It was in my living room right here. Just where you see me and you at, you know what I'm saying? I was literally right here going live, asking my friends, begging my friends. Let me tell you something. I was begging them, please join my live, please. If you support me, help me out. But it's really a matter of staying consistent and staying motivated. There's always every other week I want to quit. You know what I'm saying? Like every other week I'm like, forget this, I ain't doing this no more. But it's something that I know deep down in my soul that I was supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I was given a gift of God to speak in the way that I speak and engaging as I am, that I'm supposed to speak to people and speak to the world and send out positive messages. Like that's just what I know I'm supposed to do in my heart and my soul, And I truly do believe in that, but you have to believe in it more. You have to be Delulu until it comes Trululu, which is what I be saying all the time.
You was doing it in your house. What made you want to transition it and do it in person?
Well, I always wanted to do it in person. I just didn't know where to start, right? I didn't know, like, I was Googling how to become a radio personality. Like, what do you do to, like, get a recognition and get noticed, right? It just so happened that first one that I did just randomly, like, blew up, right? Because, like, it was my first one. But it was like, then it was like, okay, how do I stay consistent now, right? How do I keep going? And for every episode that I did, I would send it to Angie and I'd be like, hey, like, how am I doing? She's like, oh, you should do this better. You should do that better. You should do this better. So what I would say is find a mentor as well. Like, find
Mm.
someone who is better at you at it, who could tell you what to do. Because I do that for everybody who hits me up. It was like, hey, I want to start a podcast. What I do? I say, just start. Start with an idea. And as you keep going, it starts to develop into its own thing, and then you start to realize what works for you, what doesn't work for you, right? Like, I didn't even know what to talk about on my show. So what I used to do was post a poll. I'm like, what do you guys want to talk about? So people would DM me and be like, hey, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. I was like, all right, so say less. We're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about because I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So that's how the poll kind of began with my show. And I don't know if you guys know, but my show is called Tany Talks Live. So the way that Tany Talks works is every week I post the audience suggestions of topics, right? I post them on a poll every Wednesday and the audience picks what we speak about, right? So I have no idea what I'm going to talk about the weekend before the show because you guys pick the topics, right? So once the audience picks the topics, then I select a guest, a friend of mine or someone I know that has something going on. I'll bring them onto the show and we'll talk about the topic. For instance, last week's topic was Take Me Back. So we spoke about, taking someone back after you break up. Like, what's the reason for breaking up with them and reasons why you would take them back. And then I brought my guest on and we talked about that particular topic. So that's kind of how the show kind of began. I had no idea what to talk about. I would post it and I'd be like, okay, this is what people want to hear. Because remember, when I was posting about stuff, I didn't really know. No one was really watching. So I wanted to make sure it was something that the people wanted to hear. So I was like, all right, we're going to talk about what y'all want to talk about.
Yeah, that's dope. That's dope. And that keep you on your toes because you won't know what you're gonna talk about until you know what I'm saying, the poll.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun for me personally because like I don't like to know too much ahead of time, and then it feels very scripted in a way, right? The whole purpose of Tany Talks Live is my show is literally live.
Mhm.
Everything goes on live. Like if you make a mistake, it's live. You know what I'm saying? There's no fixing the mistakes once they're live. But I was very natural at speaking, live. So that's kind of like how my show runs. It's a very interactive kind of podcast, right? You pick the topics, we talk about it. I have a section called viewers comments where the audience can put in their comments, right? So it's like you're talking to your quote unquote radio bestie, because that's what I consider myself as. I want Tany Talks to be like a conversation you having with your homegirl. And that's why I really love Chilling and Vibing podcast because it's basically what I'm all about, like Tany Talks is you sitting down with your radio bestie. So now I'm chilling and vibing on the podcast with your radio bestie, Like I want you to feel like you hanging out with your homie.
Thanks. And that's what, chilling and vibing about. We just chilling and vibing, having a good time, having a good conversation. Like I say, my slogan, good conversation with good people.
Period. I love that.
So Tanner, who was your first guest and what was the topic?
My first guest, like at home or like once I got on air, because it depends. Because my first one, oh my gosh. My first one was probably all of my friends. Like I just had my homegirls coming on the show when I was doing it at home. And it wasn't until a year after doing it from home that I got noticed. Then I started to do it on iHeartRadio. And then once I got onto iHeartRadio, I started inviting more people that do artistry, right? Like recording artists. I used to have them on the show just because I felt like, number one, I love music. That's always been my thing. That's why I always wanted to be a radio personality because I love radio. I love music. So I'm like, where can I talk and also listen to music at the same time? I was like, radio, it is. But I like to have a lot of recording artists on because then they'll get the opportunity to play their music during the commercial breaks. I would say some of my favorite artists, I would say the artists are probably some of the favorite. As of recently, though, this season, I'm up to episode 4, right? I would say this season, my favorite guest would have to have been so far, right? Because the season ain't over. So far, as of right now, I would say Orlando Nightmare was one of my favorite guests to come
Mhm.
on. He is a true crime enthusiast. I've never had anybody for true crime ever come on. Like I said, I usually have like artists or entrepreneurs, but the topic was crime rate. People want to talk about crime, and it was like all these things that are happening in the city, in New York City, with like the migrants coming in, and it's a dangerous place in New York. So we were talking about crime rate, and that was a really juicy episode because I had a different type of guest on, and he knew about true crime and he spoke about his stuff. So that was a really dope episode. From last season, I really enjoyed having Emily Brooklyn on, Savannah Hannah on. Those were really fun artists that I had on the show. And I have plenty of more artists coming on. I haven't told anyone yet, but we have some really, really, really dope guests coming on for the remainder of the season. So if you guys are not tuned in, tune in now to Tany Talks Live on iHeartRadio, or you can find me on Instagram, Tany_talks, and you can watch the live videos there too.
So, Tanya, what advice did Angie give you that you remember that just stuck with you?
Oh my God, it was so many good ones. All right, so she told me that my topics were great, right? But I have to speed up getting into the topic. She mentioned that people attention spans are very short. So you have to make sure you throw out some key words within your first 7 seconds of speaking. Your first 7 to 10 seconds. Because if you don't grab their attention in 3, 4, 5 seconds, they're not going to watch the show. So I noticed she told me to start off really strong. Start off the show really strong and say the topic right away. Because what I used to do was like, hey, welcome to Tany Talks Live. It's episode 3, and we're getting into this. And they're like, all right, they already done scrolled. So she was like, get it, like grab a hook them in right away. So now when I go on, I'm like, hey y'all, you already know we picked the topic and you picked crime rate this week. And now they're like, oh, okay, I picked the okay, this is what I'm listening to for the remainder of the show. Right? You kind of gotta like get right in there and kind of say what you gotta, like get a good hook in the first 7 to 10 seconds. And I think that was one of the best advice that I had. She also mentioned to stop saying, and I do this all the time and I need to learn, saying and using filler words. So I have a habit of being like, and she's like, yeah, stop that. She's like, stop saying those filler words. Think about what you're gonna say before you say it. So that was another advice. And another thing was, she told me to write down talking points, right? So that I'm never confused about where I am in my podcast. And that actually helped me so much to the point where I create a template before my show, and I do it every 7 to 10 minutes. I'm writing, okay, this is what we're talking about during this time. This is what we're going to talk about during this time. And now that I'm on an actual show and I'm doing production, it's made me more skilled, right? Because now I know, okay, I'm always watching the time, like, okay, 10 minutes for this topic, 10 minutes for that topic. In between are the music breaks. So she kind of helped me structure the show really well by grabbing my audience and knowing what I'm talking about and how to talk, right? And not use all the time.
What made you want to become an entrepreneur?
So I actually became an entrepreneur before I had enough confidence to do radio. So that same situation where I had the health scare. So I was going through my health scare and I was recovering and I didn't have work. I had no job. I couldn't work because I was like recovering. And my kid, actually, I'm a mom, so I have a daughter, and she came up with this. She got a gift for Christmas, right? I had the injury in December and she got a gift for Christmas. And it was like a lip balm making kit. So she was making them, and my daughter came up with the idea. She's like, Mom, we could sell these chapsticks and you can make some money. And I'm like, you know what? You might be onto something, kid. Let me use a little bit of this money that I got here, you know what I'm saying, and flip it. You know what I'm saying? My daughter was the one who came up with the idea. She had so much fun making the little lip balms and lip glosses and stuff. She's like, Mom, we can sell these. I was like, you know what? We can. Let's make a whole bunch of them right now. I started ordering stuff online, and then we just started selling it to people that we knew. And when I realized like how many of our friends like genuinely like supported us, I was like, oh, we really need to go heavy on this. So me and my daughter, we created the brand called Laney Lips. My daughter's name is Laney, and we called it Laney Lips because we started out making chapsticks and lip glosses. But not only those, but now it's a whole accessory shop. So it started out as Lady Lips Only with the chapsticks, and then we turned it into Lady's Accessory Shop, which is also called Lass, like lassies, like girls, right? So now we have hair scrunchies, we have clips, we have clamps, we have bags, we have pom poms, keychains, all types of really cute accessories for little girls and guys. Not to say you guys can't put little cute chapsticks. Guys need chapstick too. But yeah, it really all came about from my daughter's idea when I was injured and I was trying to figure out like how I'm gonna make some money. And we started doing that. We started doing pop-up shops, and I got sales from all over the nation, and I just couldn't even believe like people from other states were buying, and it's been great. So if you guys want to check that out too, you can also check it out on Instagram, which is Lainey's Accessory Shop. And if you want to place an order, let me know. You can DM me, and I'll be happy to ship out your items.
That's what's up, man. Kids will motivate you. Like my daughter, she motivated me to push this podcast as hard as I've been going. Being a single dad, you know, it ain't easy, but having the kid to motivate you, put a
Mhm.
little icing on the cake, give you that little extra push.
It certainly does. It certainly does. I think, as a parent, having a kid definitely motivates you, because sometimes, you don't want to follow your dreams, right? Because you're like, oh, I got to go to work. I got to do this. I can't do this. I can't play around with these podcasts. It's not a real job. You know what I'm saying? But if you told your kid, if your kid said that, you would never turn down their dreams and be like, oh, if my daughter said, hey, she want to do a podcast, I'm not gonna be like, that's not a real job. I'm gonna support her in everything she does. So it's like, why not do what we want to do, right? To show them anything that I think of, anything that you can think of is possible. It all starts with a thought in your head, and bringing it out to life. So going through everything that I've gone through, especially with the whole health concern, my daughter was definitely a motivation to me, because I just looked at it like, you know what? Ain't no time to waste. Life is abundant. I still got a lot of life to go. And one thing I'm not going to do is regret it. I'm not going to do that, because that's exactly what my homegirl said. She said, if you don't try, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I said, you know what? I certainly will. And I don't believe in that. I'm like, listen, I don't believe in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I'm a doer. You know what I'm saying? And I want my daughter to be a doer, and how she's gonna be a doer if I ain't doing it.
Facts.
You know what I'm
And my
saying?
daughter, she see how hard her dad work. Like sometimes I got to dial it back because I got to spend time with her too. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like I just be going like 7 days a week. And then, like I was telling you, when I had the podcast going 7 days a week, I was still spending time with her, but I would be drained. I would be exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, man, I can't be doing this. I gotta spend more time with her. I gotta have that energy because kids got energy. I didn't realize how much energy I had back then. But with
Right.
her, I'm like, man, you ain't tired? Daddy, come on, let's go to the park. Man, come on now. I just did 12 hours. What you mean? But yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like, as a parent, we have a lot of guilt, right?
Mm.
Because it's like, how do I put my priorities first? Like, do I put my kid first? But if I put my kid first, then we ain't gonna have no money to keep this roof over our head. So I gotta put the money first. But if you're too focused about the money, then you're gonna sit here and miss out on your kid's life. Trust me, like, that parent guilt is very, 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 very real. But it's all about, managing it. And I'm not perfect at it, and I'm learning. Like, there's been times where I wish I would have been with my daughter sometimes. But I sit there and I explain to her, like, I'm sorry that I can't be there for you, So that's why I take on vacations and do things when I can. Like, for instance, next weekend we going, away for the weekend, because every other weekend I'm doing the podcast. So it's like, some weekends I don't got her. So it's like, this weekend's gonna be a little boring because mommy gotta go to the podcast. I ain't got no time this weekend. But I promise you, next weekend we gonna do something. You know what I'm saying? So that parent guilt is really hard, but you gotta teach your kids that it's possible. You gotta show them that it's possible. Tired or not. You know what I'm saying? You still gotta show your kid love. You know what I'm saying? You still gotta put them first and do things like that. But it's a balance. I think you just gotta figure out what works for you.
And that's why I kind of enjoy doing the podcast at home. Like having you as a guest, you know what I'm saying? Like coming to New York, right now it'd be real expensive, but being able to do it this way, it's more convenient. Like I done had people from London, Canada,
Yeah,
Cali,
see.
Florida, and I feel like technology, man, it's lovely. But I also want to do, what I'm saying, at the studio also. My first studio podcast, I had one guest. How about they didn't show up?
Let me tell
Yeah.
you something. And I had to learn this from another podcaster. And I'm gonna tell you because I think it's very valuable information. The show is about you. Don't let the show be all about your guest, right? Because there were times where I finally got onto iHeartRadio and I'm sitting there waiting for the guest. And I promise you, every season, there's been a guest that didn't show up. You understand? And what I used to do in my season 3, back, I'm on season 5 now, but in season 3, I would cancel the show. I'm like, oh, they ain't come, forget it, I'm going home. I'll reschedule it next week. And then it wasn't until season 4 that I had Johnny Fastlane. Shout out to Johnny Fastlane. He sat there and he's like, Tany, the show is about you. If they don't show up, you do that show without them the same way you was doing that show by yourself in your living room. Because it's called Tany Talks. You know what I'm saying? That's your show. Don't let your show be canceled because somebody else ain't show up. Just keep going, keep doing the show. So I realized, you know what? Even if an artist don't come, it's fine. I'm still gonna talk about the topic because people still want to know about it, and I'm gonna do it by myself. It's always best to have somebody with you. That way, you kind of piggyback off somebody. There's energy and chemistry. But at the end of the day, that is your show. You know what I'm saying? So do not never cancel no show because somebody ain't show up. It's still chilling and vibing, even if you're chilling and vibing by yourself.
But
Facts.
Tany, what advice would you give somebody who want to start a podcast?
Start somewhere. I would just say you don't have to have it all figured out. Like I said, once you start, things start to like structure itself. You start to realize, okay, this is what people like, this is what people don't like, this is what I like, and this is what I don't like. And when you start to just have good energy about it, which I have so much good energy, then I got picked up by a station. You understand? Now I'm on Party 101.9 because I just was like believing in myself so crazy that it just manifested itself. You really just have to start and stay consistent. My God, that is the hardest thing ever. Because for me, it was like, okay, well, I'm done after season 1. All right, I'm done after season 2. All right, I'm done after season 3. Sometimes I feel like I'm going to be done after season 5, but it's like people are like, Tany, stay consistent because you never know who's watching. You never know who's watching.
Hey, that's true because I even had this radio guy. He watching my podcast, and I didn't even know he was watching. My little nephew, he know him, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I've been seeing him a lot, man." But he gonna come on
Yeah.
the podcast also. Shout out to Jay Fresh, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I've been seeing him." You know what I'm saying? People notice, so that why I just keep working.
People definitely will start to notice, you know what I'm saying? And you know what else they will notice too? When you stop. You think nobody's watching you the whole time you're doing it, right? But the second you stop, everybody's gonna be like, yo, what happened chilling and vibing? What happened to chilling and vibing? What happened to Tany Talks? Da, 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 da. And not only that, but I've had people come on my show and hate and be like, this show ain't gonna go nowhere.
Mm.
I'm like, that just gave me more motivation.
Mm-hmm.
That don't turn me down. That makes me go harder. You know what I'm saying? So, block out all the noise. If you want to start a podcast, just start somewhere, And I think the key thing, other than staying consistent and believing in yourself, would be to like just be true to who you are. I think that's also something that's really, really, really important. Don't start a podcast trying to be somebody that you're not, and your podcast will fall apart. You understand? Go in it with true intentions and be yourself. Do not get on there trying to be like somebody else because you can never be like nobody else because there's only one you. You know what I'm saying? Like, try to have an original idea and stick with your original idea no matter how silly it may sound. You know what I'm saying? You really have to stick to true to who you are. Don't try to change who you are. Don't try to fit in. Don't try to do none of that. Just be true to yourself and everything will just manifest itself with hard work. I don't think you just manifesting is going to happen. You got to actually put in the work, and keep doing it. No matter how silly you feel. I'm telling y'all, I used to feel silly all the time. I would cry literally after because no one was watching my live. And guess what? One of the biggest people in the media was watching it after I posted it. They wasn't on the live, but after I posted it, they saw it. So don't be discouraged if there's nobody listening. Don't be discouraged if there's nobody watching. Keep moving forward because I promise you, the people are watching and listening.
Well, Tany, I appreciate you for coming to chill and vibe. But before we go, let everybody know what we doing.
Y'all already know, Ben.
Appreciate you, Tany.
All right, y'all be safe. Follow me on Instagram at Tany_Talks, okay? Y'all can check out what we talking about this week on Tany Talks Live.